My name is Andy Armstrong, and I'm the Senior Minister of First Church in Nashua, New Hampshire, and I'm sitting with Steve Davis. Steve, we first met on a Sunday where I had spoken about the loss of my sister, having gone through the hospice experience with her. And I think our conversation started with the depth of human experience and loss. And thereafter, a month later, I invited you to speak about your own journey in hospice. I'm moved by your ability to simply step right in no sooner than you're introduced to me in this congregation. Tell me about these motivations to connect to First Church and just your generosity with who you are and what you've given with us thus far.
Well, I remember the first conversation. You had spoken of your sister at service, and I came through the receiving line on the way out, and I mentioned that I had was familiar with hospice. And we talked for a moment, and then we had a coffee at the little Riverside coffee shop. And we talked. We thought it was going to be a half-hour talk, and we were there an hour and a half or something. We talked about many things. But my journey to get to this church came during COVID. Actually, near the end of COVID, I watched a couple of your services on the channel, and I wandered over here to the church in March of 2023, and then I began to come here. But with respect to the hospice and being willing to talk about it, it's something that it seemed natural to me because I was not a person familiar to hospice until it happened to us. I would not have been one of those people. And our experience in hospice, basically, with my wife Ginger, it changed my life in many ways. She had a faith that I didn't really recognize as a deep faith. We met in college, and we dated all through college, and we occasionally went to church, but not usually college. College kids don't seem to go to church. But there would be signs of it, and then when we got married, we moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and began to go to church. And she got involved with Sunday school and adult talent shows, teaching women to tap dance so they could do shows and so forth, and they did those sorts of things. But we moved back here, and we had a really nice life with our two children, and she became ill. And she fought what she had for about 6 years. In the last 6 weeks, she was in hospice. And our pastor asked us, "Have you had the talk yet?" And we looked at each other and said, "No, we haven't." And we usually talked about everything. She says, "I think you should do this, and then tie it up and put it under the bed for future." And so that was the beginning of me really recognizing the depth of her faith. I mean, I'd recognized it when she was ill, but in the conversation, she took me to depths that I never would have dreamed of. And I believe that was her final gift to me, and that is what got me through the grieving. And I went, she told me, I really think you should go to a counselor. So I went to a 8-week set class grievance bereavement group, and during that, about halfway through, the facilitator asked me if I'd ever thought of doing this, and I said, "Well, no." She said, "Well, some of the questions you ask and some of the ways that you're interacting with these people, I think you could do that." So I took the course, and I became a facilitator for about a year, and then I stepped away from it. But it was her deep faith, and I guess one example I can give of that, and it's very contemporaneous, because last week I lost a dear friend in North Carolina, and she was a good friend of Ginger's, and she was a writer, and she taught at Rivier College. She was a professor. She moved to North Carolina about 15 years ago and wrote poetry books, and also had written a book that she had come to the hospice house, and I can remember Ginger said, "Lorraine was down here and I helped her write her book. I helped her write a chapter." And this book is called This Is Not My Story, and it's Lorraine's journey. She had MS and other other maladies going on, and she and Ginger became friends. But last night I just thought I'd thumb through this book, and I came to a passage where she said that I was visiting Ginger in the hospice house, and we were talking about various things, and Ginger looked at me and said, Lorraine speaking now, "I hope you get better." And Ginger was probably within a week of passing on. And Lorraine said, "Well, I hope you get better too." And she said, "I will," and smiled. And Lorraine said, we both knew what she meant. So those sorts of, and I hadn't read or seen that before. And Lorraine said, I'm going to let you read this book only after a year's gone by. Yeah. But my faith was then, through the hospice, my foundations were shaken and rebuilt. And when I first came here, I really liked your sermons, and I've told you before, there's always an element of hope. And hope became a very important message for me, and in all the community activities that you support. And the people here have been genuinely friendly and outgoing and friendly, so it's been a very pleasant journey.
We talked about hospice, and here we are actually doing a video on stewardship. And yet stewardship is really a way of living. And ultimately, it's taking responsibility for what we've been given. And what really inspired me to speak to you was the fact that you were given loss in the love of your life. And through that journey, you received from Ginger a gift of faith. And it's that faith that inspires you to give back to others in assisting them in their own journeys. And so as I hear you reflect on, where you've been in your walk, it just gives me great hope in being the church, because where else do we talk about these things?
Exactly.
And where else do we turn to for hope that might not simply tap us on the shoulder and say, here I am? And so I think that just your presence and your sharing gives us collective encouragement and hope.
Well, I'm looking forward to becoming a member, and I'm hopeful to getting more involved with the church, and also with my time and giving that I can do.
Well, we're thrilled that you will be joining us. I feel like you've already been here quite some time, and it's amazing how life can just fast-track relationship and connection. And so you arrived an older soul, and I think that there are people that have already been blessed by what you've had to share. So I thank God for your presence with us.
Well, and it's all unexpected. It's those little thin space moments that I don't look for them, but I've been receptive, and they've happened. And I'm very, very pleased to be here.
Thank you, Steve.